life or reality. Our thoughts are not fiction. No one gets an opinion on the topics that we mention with the Holy Ghost boldness. God's in control of this. Real talk with real men for purpose and focus. Growth to get better. See, man up, we better. To change for the better. The future getting better. True men of God, leading, going hard. It's time to level up with the Man Up Squad. Now, man up. You got this. M-A-N-U-P. Man up. Now, man up. M-A-N-U-P. Now, man up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Elder Juan Beverly, and this is Man Up. I'm filling in for our usual host, Pastor Tony Smith, and we welcome you for joining us. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all of the men of Man Up being here as well. And we're going to discuss something today that's called fear. Things related to fear. Why are we fearful today? If I can, I want you right now to both like, comment, share this with your friends and family, because we want everyone to be tuned in at this time. Let's talk about fear. And when we look at fear, it's described as a distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, pain, etc., whether the threat is real or imagined, the feeling or condition of being afraid. That's the definition of fear. So I want to ask our Man Up members here now, what are some of the fears that you see people experiencing today?
One of the prominent fears that I think we see today is of people. Which to me is new, because that's not what I'm accustomed to seeing. That's not kind of what I grew up on, seeing people afraid of people. You know, it used to be a time where, you know, people were raving on the fact that they're afraid of no one. But it appears today that people are afraid of everybody. The same way that people were afraid of the pandemic when it first hit, and they were staying in the house and they were doing all of these extra things. Now, because crime, you know, especially here in Baltimore, has been, you know, raising more and more, that it appears that now people are fearful to go out of their house. They're fearful to go places. They're fearful to go in environments because they feel like they're unsure of what people's choices and decisions are going to be, because before, people were choosing other options, and it seems like now their only choice is violence.
Interesting. It's excellent. You know, and to that point, you know, you and I breathe the same air. And to your point about back in the day not being fearful of another human being, another man, it's because, well, you know, you breathe the same air I do. Right. You know, and if you're close enough to hit me, you're close enough to get hit.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But things have changed. People aren't throwing fists anymore. You know, it's a cop out, really. If you ask me. We're talking a little bit before the show about that, and you know, back in the day, if there was a disagreement or beef or anything, you would scrap, and most of the time it would be over. You know, unless it was one of those on-site things, you was just always fighting, but it would be over, and then y'all be hooping. You'd be playing street ball. You know, you'd be playing football again and you'd be tight. You'd be friends. You'd be okay. But now, people out here, they shooting each other, stabbing each other, and then they die, and you ain't got no friends. Right. You know, so how do we address that? What do we say to that, to people who are, to your point, scared to come out of the house and be a part of society, or just walk down the street?
Go ahead.
I mean, to be honest with you, you still have to live your life. You have to live your life with caution. Unfortunately, you have to be very aware of your surroundings. The bad part is about it, though, because you used to be able to come outside and say, okay, I'm not going to go down this street. I'm not going to go to this place. I'm not going to go to that place. But you can go to the supermarket. Your kids can be in school. You could be in a church. And these dangers are still there. So while there's like this idea of knowing where to go to be safe or not having fear, there is still a level of, well, where can I go to be safe? But I think at the end of the day, you got to make a decision for yourself. You say, you know what, I'm not going to allow that fear to keep me trapped in my house and trapped from living my life. I'm going to live my life. And as people in the kingdom, you pray for safety, you pray for protection, you plead the blood of Jesus over you and your family, and you live your life accordingly.
That's good. That's good. And speaking of that, there are many Christians who actually are filled with fear, but call themselves Christian. So what can we say to them to help them overcome the fear? Or let's ask a better question. Why are they afraid? Why are believers afraid?
I guess that a believer is probably more afraid of unknown, something, situations that they can't control, so that's where a lot of fear come in, and maybe their faith is lacking.
That's it right there. That's good. Okay.
I would say Christians are fearful because a lot of times some Christians put on the act. You know what I mean? So when the truth is time for the reality of life to really unfold, and you're not in what we would say the four walls of the church, now they're fearful to go out to really face reality. Like, there are people on the corners that really need prayer. You know what I'm saying? That if you are not fearful, and you are walking in, the Spirit, you'll be able to see or hear somebody or say that, they need prayer and pray for them. You know what I mean? And then they're like me or you or any of us up here right now can go on a corner and, relate to the people that's on the corner. But some people who are spiritually deep, you know what I'm saying? They ain't going on that corner because they fearful of what they're, man, get off this corner. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, I'll get right in my car. You know what I'm saying? But, difference of it is because we probably come from that background and different things like that. So that's what I say. If you're a believer and you walking in the Spirit, you know what I'm saying, then there's nowhere you go because God is in all of us no matter where we go.
I think that's a great point. But I think part of the challenge is while most churches are teaching the Bible, every church is not teaching life application skills to us to go with that biblical teaching. So while I'm being taught the scripture and while I'm being taught about the Spirit, when I leave from the place of where I feel his Spirit is and my that's all I have in understanding, I don't know how to apply the Bible to my everyday living. I don't know how to apply the principles and the attributes of Christ into my daily walk. Now I'm walking with fear because I'm met with physical things that I can see with my eye, that in church I've been taught about the spiritual things that I'm supposed to be discerning. So now I don't know how to relate my spiritual understanding to my practical living in the life that I'm walking. So I end up showing fear when I actually am the answer because I have the knowledge to provide the answer. But until, some of the churches learn to incorporate life application skills or teachings and classes to associate that with the biblical teaching, then we'll stay stuck in this area.
That's good. That's good because those are the types that are so spiritually or heavenly minded that they're no earthly good. Right. And even the apostle taught us to be all things to all men, so that you can win some. You're not going to win everybody, but you should, to your point, Minister Rock, know how to relate to people. Whether it's somebody standing on the corner with their jeans over butters, or you're talking in a corporate setting with a C-suite employee. You should be able to communicate with both, so that you can win one of them, if not both. Right. Excellent. So, Are there consequences to having fear, whether they be spiritual consequences or natural consequences?
Yeah, I would say there are consequences. I would say that a person who walks in fear is going to have a very sheltered life. They're probably going to miss a lot of opportunities, and also I believe that a person walking in fear, I always say that the world is full of wolves. It's like bullies, you know what I mean? And it's like if you walk in fear, there are people that will feed on that. And you just, then you're everybody's punching bag. So you gotta take some confidence. Our God was not a punk. He ain't no punk. He was a very violent God. Like he if he didn't like stuff, he dealt with it. So, and we're made in his image. So I'm not saying that we're supposed to be violent. I mean, I'm just saying that, you know, the God we serve, he's a very deliberate God. So,
Well, the kingdom of God does suffer violence.
yes.
And the violence
Yes.
take it.
Yes. So, but that's not a happy, fulfilled life walking in fear.
Great. So I think if we piggyback on that, where should a believer focus his or her violence? Should it be in the natural? Should it be in the spiritual?
Spiritual. That's very good.
And then how do they do that?
Prayer. Prayer. Yeah. Taking it to the Lord in prayer because, you know, when we try to take stuff by our own will, you know, you may do it the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know, but when you pray about it and, you know, give it to God, you know, and diligently pray for the situation, you know, it allow him to go ahead and fix it. And you look at me and be like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say.
I agree. That's like the emotion. You know, you got the emotion of fear. You got or violence. So now you feel it. Your heart pumping. So when you're praying, you're going to transfer that out into the atmosphere. So God is going to receive that. It's not like you're just sitting there like, oh God, help me. You know, you really got something in you. That's how you release it, and then let God handle it, and let Him respond on your behalf.
And what I would also add with the prayer is, see, we can pray, but then also prayer needs follow-up. You know what I'm saying? You just don't, you know, pray. And what I mean by follow-up, that if there's a situation and you know about it, you pray about it, but then I'm not saying you go chase down somebody because you know they going, you know, crazy in the situation, but the follow-up is, you know, checking on the individual. You know what I'm saying? And that's one thing I know that was taught to me in ministry, you know, some time ago, that when you pray about it, you know, follow up on it and check on it to, you know, because, you know, God's word has to be performed. You know what I'm saying? So following up on it, seeing it and seeing, you know, just making sure that it's happening.
Journey through it. Follow through the process. Great.
To piggyback, though, a little bit about the violent part and it being just spiritual, if you think about violence and you think about, like, aggression and being aggressive about what you want in life, you can kind of get practical with it too. Because if you say you want something and you really go after it aggressively, maybe not violently, but you could interchange somewhat synonyms. Like if you're going to sit back and, you know, tiptoe on something, you might not get what you want. But when you get aggressive and confident about what you want and you really go after it, whether it be a job, a house, a career, whatever it is, like, get violent with it. Not saying attack people, but get aggressive, get confident, be serious, like, claim your stake and go after what you want and eliminate that fear.
And that's what I was going to add to that, because I do think that it's both spiritual and natural, because in the church world, the opposite of fear is faith. But faith without works is dead. So, you can say, I used to have fear, but I don't have fear anymore. Now I got faith. But if all you have is standstill faith that has no works, then you're just lying in wait. But your faith has to be attached to some works. So where there once was fear, that fear is combated by the faith. But your faith has to be in something that is going to produce, not just a hope on a whim, but your faith is in something that is secure. And so understanding the laws and the principles of the word, then I can have faith and stand knowing that what I have faith in will come to pass, and I'm not going to stand here and wait for it to get to me. I'm going towards it. So I'm putting some works with my faith that is dismissing the fear that I once had in that particular area. And when it comes to, I think one of the challenges that we have is that church people only limit things to the church. So, we are a totality. We are a complete person, and we have to use our completeness in everything. We have to use our walk with God in every area. You shouldn't just be a Christian at church. You should be a Christian at work and in your family and in your community. So those same areas should be the same places that you have that faith that also has works.
And, go ahead.
I was gonna say it reminds me of like people in sports. You're great at practice, but you're horrible with the game. Like, we great in here to pump up faith and rah, we get all pumped up, and then we go out there into the game or the real world. It's like you're not producing what you claimed to be when you was in here.
Because at
now
practice,
we got real opponents, we got real defense.
Exactly, because at practice you was just shooting, you was just running the route. Nobody was guarding you. Nobody was putting pressure. Now there's pressure when you get in the real game, and you don't know how to respond or react to the pressure, so you retreat.
And you're not familiar with the pressure that the outside is giving you. When you're in practice, you know your teammates. Then they may pressure you a little bit, but it's not going to be the same pressure that's applied by someone outside of the practice.
Right.
So if that's the case, and we look at it naturally, we're just the sum of everything that we've experienced to this point. And when we think about children, little kids, and we see them do things like tumbling over sofas or doing somersaults over tables and things, there's no fear, but we're in like, don't do that. Why? Because we've experienced what could happen if it doesn't go the way we want it to,
Right.
or we plan for it to. But how can we get back, or can we? Can we get back to the point where we have that childlike tenacity or lack of fear and just go for stuff, to just go for it without thinking of consequences?
You can.
Or could this be bad,
No, you can. I guess just like you said before, we had those experiences where we flipped over the couch and we hit our head and it hurt for 5 minutes or whatever. And we put an ice pack on it. So those instances, if you see someone, my brother, going through something, and they make it through, and then you're going through that same thing, then you shouldn't have fear, because now you've seen it work. You know that it's going to hurt. You know it may take a little while to get through it. But if Chris went through it, I know I can go through it. So even though his time with it may be shorter than mine, but I know there's a light at the end of that tunnel. So we can get back to it. We just have to have that mindset.
And it teaches us, I think. It's not to say that you won't ever flip over another couch, because I think we've all been there. We've jumped off of a bed, and hurt or broke something, but that didn't stop us from doing it again. But we learned from it, okay? So maybe instead of flipping with my left leg, I'll roll to the right side this time. We just changed our approach. But to some degree, we don't do that. I don't see that happening often when we come to salvation,
I think we become victims of our past too, right? Like, you have to understand that you can go through the same process 2 different times and the outcome could be completely different. And if you don't understand that, you get stuck thinking about the first time you went through it and what the consequence or the outcome was. Minister Chris spoke to it today when he spoke. They went through a process and got denied. They went through the same exact process and got approved. So you have to understand that sometimes your faith will get tested in the process, and sometimes you just got to do the process again and still keep that same level of faith that the outcome is going to be different. And that's where the spirituality comes into, because in the natural world, a person's, I'm not going to do that again. It's not going to work. No, I believe in a higher power. I have faith to believe that the outcome is going to be what it's supposed to be at some point, even if it's not the first time I tried it.
I'm about to say, now you said you keep the same level of faith. Wouldn't you want to apply a little bit more faith than what you went before? Because if I'm fighting and I know I'm giving this man my best right and it's not taking him down and I lose the fight, I'm going to work on my right when I go back to do my training, right? Because I know that this right didn't work. This thing didn't help me out in the long run. So something has changed.
I think I just meant don't decrease your faith because it didn't work that
Okay.
first time. But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But I would also add, with the faith, the environment. Being in the right environment, as well, because when you just talked about boxing, see, fighters, if you fighting and you at the skating ring, you're not gonna have the same tenacity as the fighter that's in the gym every single day. So, but if you're in that environment in the gym every day, they're taught to take the punch. So your faith level got to be, man, if I know he can take it on the chin, I got to be able to take it on the chin, you know what I'm saying, and go in there and do it. But those ones that don't diligently do what they need to do to make it happen, you know what I'm saying, it's going to be tough because they're not in the environment. Like when you were talking about here, this is the practice, the sanctuary could be a place to practice. But the environment that they're being prepared for is the environment outside. You know what I'm saying? But if you got enough gym work, in you, then when you go out there, now you can take one on the chin because you know that you've been through it in practice. Does that make sense?
How important is it then, following up on that, how important is it to have the right people in your life? Can the right people help you overcome those fears consistently? And
absolutely. There's a saying that whoever has your ear has your destiny, and it's you build your faith. If think about it, if you're around somebody that says you can't beat him, like if we go in your scenario, you can't beat him, you can't beat him, you can't beat him, you can't beat him. Those words are seed. Bro, you're mentally, you're done. Oh man, you are. How many fights have we seen back when Mike Tyson was fighting? They were defeated before they got in the ring. So it's like whoever has your ear, that's why everybody isn't qualified for you to get advice from. So that's why you shouldn't be everybody. I give an example all the time. It's like, okay, if I got an electrical problem, do I call a plumber? No. So if it's spiritual, it's like you shouldn't be calling everybody for advice. When times get tough, you shouldn't be calling everybody. Like my father is alive, but there's some situations I don't call my father for, because he ain't as strong in that area. You see what I'm saying? Especially when I'm talking about faith. I call my father. You see what I'm saying? So you have to make sure you qualify. Conversation should be qualified. Okay, I need to make sure I'm having this conversation with somebody who's qualified to give me the advice.
Okay, well let's stay there for a second. For someone that you just met, or let's take someone coming off the street who's coming into the church for the first time. They want that relationship with Christ. How can what are some things you can share with them that will help them identify who's qualified? People's walk outside of the church. Because like what you said, it's like you're supposed to be, if I'm saved, I'm not supposed to be just saved on the altar. I'm supposed to be saved. Sometimes I'll just stand and I'll just watch, like let's say there'll be a young lady dressed, and I just be watching eyes to see, like, please don't let me catch. I hope like nobody's looking at this young lady. But it's like you never know who's watching. I don't know if y'all, but yeah. But so I watch people's walk. It's not about what they say; it's about what they actually do.
I got one even to back that up. So like this is true experience. Years ago, a brother came into church, and it was something about not that I don't know about the street, but I knew because I'm already talking to him. Let me turn him over to somebody else who I know that's more qualified to talk about this particular situation. I went and got John. You know what I mean? Like, John, go over there because you're discernment. John, go over there, speak to this person, blah, blah, blah. And him and John, church was over with. They still was back there talking because at that moment, John was the right fit for that particular situation. You know what I mean? So when it comes to people talking to people, you got to know who's the right fit for it, not just give, because we ain't always fit for the person. It's not always our assignment. It's for somebody else to do it, because God the test is not for you to try to tackle everything. You got to ask God, who do you want me to, like certain situations I know I'm going to call Pastor Marcus, because now this is my guy, but I know when it's time to talk to him, he's not going to come at me from the my God standpoint. He's going to come at me from I'm gonna ask them the question, and then you gotta, whoever that you seeking to feel fit for that particular situation, you also gotta be prepared for the answer. Does that make sense? For that right person to be in your life.
And you too gotta, like, in that instance, like what you said, kind of swallow your pride and say, as much as I'm Minister Rock, as much as I am who I am, I'm known for X, Y, Z. This ain't for me.
That's right.
I got 4 boys. One of my friends called me with an issue with one of their daughters. Can't relate. I'm not gonna sit here and try to give you advice on what to do with your daughter because I'm not in that situation.
You're right.
As much as I'm the dependable friend, the guy you can call, in this situation, I'm sorry. I gotta be like, sorry, that's my weakness. I gotta turn you over to somebody else.
That's good. That's right.
And knowing when to do it,
Exactly.
and then actually following through on doing it is key as well, because it goes so much beyond our lives, but now we've got to think about the life that we're affecting. What's going to be the best for them? Can fear affect, or what can we do, or how can we approach fear so that it doesn't affect our health? That would be one question to ask. Is there anything that we can do there?
Face it. Part of our bigger challenge when it affects the body when it comes to fear is because we don't face it. We try to avoid it. We think that we're avoiding it, but we're really internalizing it, and it's doing damage and harm to our body. But if you face it, then you know what you're up against. It's kind of like the same way that for men specifically, we're not the greatest at going to the doctor. We're not the greatest at, doing some of the necessary things to make sure that our health is intact. Simply because sometimes we don't want to face it. You already know you don't feel right, but you don't want to go to the doctor and they tell you got high blood pressure, because then you're going to have to stop eating some of the things that you like to eat. So until you fall down, and until, you know what I'm saying? Until
hit your head.
Until you got a headache, you done hit your head, you done. It has to be extreme before you make any type of adjustment, because you just don't want to face it. Because you think, if I go, they're going to tell me this, so I'm just going to prolong it and enjoy this ride a little longer, when that might not even be the case. You could face it, and that isn't even an issue. They could just tell you you're wearing the wrong shoes. And you out here thinking that it's something different, something bigger, and you could face it and find out, man, I had fear for no reason. I'm not even dealing with what I thought was a potential challenge, but because I didn't face it, I'm wasting time. Or it could have been something, and if I would have faced it when I first thought about it, I could have fixed it and helped not have it get to this point.
So we've created, a lot of times we can create our own circle of fear just from not responding or not taking the initiative to face something that may be going on, or that we feel is going on in our bodies.
And then too, you think about fear. I mean, a lot of fear is just like uncertainty. And you think about uncertainty, it goes like the cousin to anxiety, right? And anxiety sometimes is stress, and we're talking about mental illness, right? So mental illness is illness of the mind, but eventually, if you're so mentally ill or carrying that stress and that anxiety, it kind of takes a toll on your physical body too. So when you have ailments or some type of physical disability, it could be coming from the mental stress that you're putting on your body, that's coming from the anxiety, and the fear. So like you said, you got to face it, kind of just deal with it, because eventually it can turn into more of a physical ailment.
And I'm going to say, what people need to realize is that fear is not forever. It shouldn't be forever. There's people that's scared of snakes. I'm not saying that you need to go pet a snake, but I'm just saying, if that is your fear, and you have the opportunity to hold a snake, people walking down the street, hold the snake. Get over that fear. But guess what? Nobody say that you have to go out next week and hold that exact same snake or any other snake. But that's a fear that you conquered. So that means that maybe down the line, I won't be that afraid of snakes.
I give you an example. I don't like, the roller coasters when you go down. I don't like that feeling when you go down. So I'll get on the roller coaster. And then my kids be like, "Come on, Daddy." I'm like, oh God, I don't want to die today. I don't want to die today. I don't want to die today. but I do it because I don't like the idea of something controlling me. I hate that feeling. So I'll just do it, and I'm like, please, God, I don't want to die today. I want to die today. And then I get through, and I'll be like, okay, I made it. I mean, but yeah, I don't like that feeling. I don't like that.
I think between the two of you, you said something that's powerful. What I got from that is that the only way to conquer fear is to attack it. Attack it and not shy away from it. You've got to hit it head on. And I think when you do that, you're like, oh, okay, all right, I did that. That wasn't so bad as I thought it was going to be. All right, what's the next ride we going on? You know, that kind of thing. Excellent, excellent. Does a lot of the wow, we could I think go on for days about this, right? But I hope this has blessed somebody. A number of you, even if it's just one, I hope it reaches the right one. We've talked about fear today and how to address it, how to attack it, how to conquer and overcome it, how not to ignore it. Would be some things I would recommend you to do. So we want to thank the cast of Man Up. We want to thank Pastor Tony Smith for the opportunity to come before you today. We hope you received something and that it's blessed your life. And until the next time, we say God bless you. Be well. So long.